that dream.
Welcome back to my channel. Today is a Q&A episode. I reached out on Instagram to all of my followers to send in any questions you want. I didn't really put any kind of topic on it, so it's just like a little bit of everything. But yeah, I thought we'll just get straight into it, have a whole episode on answering questions that you guys have, stuff that you might not know about me, and stuff that if you've been following me for a while, you probably already know. Might learn something new, we'll find out. Why don't you live in Australia? I don't live in Australia because I kind of always said if I'm going to turn professional, I'm going to go to the UK or the US to pursue my professional career. I think women's boxing in the UK, especially at the time that I turned professional, is and was buzzing. It was just the right time. Obviously signing with a UK-based manager, a UK-based training team, a UK-based promoter, it just made sense for me to be based in the UK. That's why I don't live in Australia. That wasn't actually the plan. I didn't plan to live in the UK. The plan was just to train in the UK. But as I was fighting so often, especially in the beginning, it just made more sense for me to stay here. How well are you currently preparing for your next fight? So today is my last day in the UK. I'm flying in the morning to Philadelphia. I've had an amazing preparation. I feel like it's been a long, hard camp, but we have worked on so much new stuff. I feel like we've really come a long way from the boxer that I was to the boxer I am right now. And I feel like I have a really, really big opportunity next weekend to showcase the stuff we've been working on, we've been developing. I feel like I'm boxing completely different. It's a whole new style. There's been a lot of trial and error. Some things have worked, some things have definitely not worked, but I've really enjoyed the process and I've had a really good preparation. What's the hardest part of training camp? For me, I think obviously one, being based on the other side of the world, from my family and friends. While I have built a nice home away from home here in the UK, I definitely feel like those really hard weeks of training camp, sometimes you do just really miss home, miss your mum. So that for me is like probably one of the hardest. And then I would obviously also say making weight. Being a foodie, if you watched episode 2, I love food. I'm very passionate about broccoli. I'm so happy. No, I just love food. So obviously I think that's probably most boxers' hardest part about training camp, I would say, is the weight cuts and the dieting that goes along with the hard, grueling training. But I love that part. The training part for me it's hard, but it's very enjoyable for me. I love it. If you could have dinner with anyone from history, living or dead, who would you pick? This is an easy one for me. I would choose my brothers, Jamie and Gavin, who I never met. If you don't know the story, they unfortunately passed away in a car accident a year and a half before I was born. Jamie was 22, Gavin was 10. So I feel like I missed out on meeting them, and that would be like a dream to sit and have dinner with them and talk to them. I hear so many amazing stories about them, their lives, the people whose lives they touched in their short time here on earth. So I think that would be a very special dinner. Who inspired you to start boxing? That one comes off the back end of that last question as well. My brother, Jamie, was probably arguably one of the best amateur boxers, if not the best amateur boxer to ever come out of Australia. The things he did by 22 is just incredible. A world medalist in the elite men's worlds at 17 years old, Commonwealth Games medalist, Olympian, and was early in his pro career when his life was cut short. But I grew up hearing all of the amazing stories about him traveling the world, representing Australia, and he was definitely always and still is a big inspiration for me boxing and my boxing journey. How old is Tito? Mr. Steal the Show. Tito is 2 years old. I got him about 9 months after I moved to the UK, and he is just the perfect little companion during training camp. I couldn't imagine my life without him now. He is handbrake on my life, especially someone who travels so much and has a very, very busy lifestyle, but I wouldn't change anything. He is, yeah, we don't deserve dogs. I'm very lucky to have a very loving one. Would you quit boxing for modelling if the money was right? No. One, I definitely don't box for money. I never even expected or dreamed of boxing being my career or being a way of earning money for me. That's been a really nice little bonus that has happened on my journey, but no, for me, I definitely would not quit boxing for modelling. I like that I can do a little bit of both, but I would definitely never choose to do modelling over boxing. How and when did you get into boxing? The how is I grew up around boxing. My family stayed very involved in boxing after the passing of the boys. My oldest brother, Alan, is a boxing coach, an amateur boxing coach, and we have a amateur boxing club based out of my parents' back garden or backyard, depending on where you're from. I was 12 years old. I was a little bit chubby. I wouldn't say fat, but I was a little bit like chunky. I was finishing year 7, going into year 8, which was at that time high school. And I think my mum was actually a little bit nervous about me struggling to make friends, or just wanted to get me a little bit more confident about going into high school. I did get bullied a little bit in primary school, and I feel like it was probably a self-confidence thing that allowed that. And yeah, going into the boxing gym and training with my brother, it was definitely never to box or to competitively box. It was more just to get fit and get a little bit of self-confidence and things like that. Socialise as well. There was quite a few boys in the gym at the time around the same age as me. Yeah, I was 12 years old. It was off the back end of 2007, at the end of the school year, which in Australia is November, December time. And by the February of 2008, I got in the ring for the first time. So I was literally in the gym about 8 weeks from when I first learned to box to stepping through the ropes. The boys that I was sparring with and training with were getting their medical books and getting ready to have their first weigh-in, and I said, well, I'm doing all the same training, I'm sparring them, beating them in sparring, so why can't I do it too? And it was just, I think my parents felt quite comfortable with it at first because they just thought there's not going to be another 12-year-old girl that's 46 kilos for her to fight anyway, so we'll keep her quiet and we'll get her medical book and she can weigh in. And literally at my first weigh-in, there was another girl there. She was like 45 kilos, same age. We ended up boxing each other about 10 times. But yeah, I won that first fight. I got a taste for that winning feeling, and honestly never ever looked back. I never for a second thought about life without boxing, really. I was sucked in. I caught the boxing bug at 12 years old. How has using the Whoop changed your approach to training and recovery? I'm a very all or nothing person, and I was on the Whoop back in 2021 and I had to come off it because I was getting red recoveries and it was pissing me off, basically, to the point that I was like, I'm not listening to that anymore. So I've rejoined Whoop since the start of this training camp. So this will be my first whole training camp as a professional, with all the data for the UK people, if I said data, all of my Australian followers would be in uproar.
Data.
It is data. But data, tomatoes, all right? No, I'm back on Whoop and I'm obsessed with it. So since I've been back on, I am so obsessed with getting my pre-sleep routine right, trying all of the foods and supplements that are supposedly meant to get your HRV up and your resting heart rate down, and this is going to give you good recovery, because I'm very competitive as well, and a few of the boys in the gym have also gone back on Whoop, and it's a competition every day of who gets the best recovery, basically. So no, I think it has been a really positive influence on my training camp. I'm doing a lot more recovery activities like going to the sauna and the ice plunge, you can actually see with your own eyes the benefits that it has when you see your body's recovered better the next day. It's making me push harder in training as well, because obviously I want to hit strain targets, so I'm putting in that extra work. So no, Whoop's been, I think, a really great addition to my training and recovery for this camp. I'm a little bit unsure at the moment if I'm going to take it off for fight week or not, just because I don't want to get in my own head, and if I have a bad recovery, I don't want to be second guessing myself. But I do believe, like, I have become more headstrong since 2021, and a red recovery does not mean I can't put in a good performance, because I've had really good performing days in training camp on red recoveries. So I'm on the fence, but we'll see. I've got all these compression socks and everything ready for the flight, because apparently that helps keep your HRV up when you're flying. So that's a tip for you. Would you rather end up the GOAT in one weight division, or just one of the best across multiple divisions? Good question. What about end up the GOAT across multiple divisions? I want to be the GOAT of the featherweight division, to be honest. I feel like it's my division. I own this division, and those belts being held hostage won't be held hostage for much longer. So right now I would say I want to be the GOAT in one weight division, but I have big plans. And I think I will be known and remembered as one of the best across multiple weight divisions eventually, but always the GOAT of the featherweight division. Has the Everlast sponsorship changed something? Do you feel like it's a real step up? I've absolutely loved working with Everlast. It's early days, obviously. I think we're about 3 months in to our partnership deal, but obviously I feel honoured to be basically a face of Everlast, to go into Piccadilly Circus and see my face on moving billboards in central London. It's just like pinch me moments. I think Everlast is a very historic brand in the boxing world, and no, it's been an honour, and I'm absolutely loving working with them. I wouldn't say it feels like a step up. I feel like I was always destined to be partnering with big brands, and I'm glad that I didn't rush into smaller brand opportunities earlier in my career, and I waited out for the big ones and the ones that I want. Do you think you will ever run out of fight kit colours? Probably. I mean, I don't know, I feel like there's still quite a few colours for me to do. I think our next episode, I'm not sure if it's going to be a whole episode or more of a short, but we are going to do a fight kit reveal for next week's fight kit, which I'm really, really excited about. I think this every time, but I think it's the best one yet. The level up continues, basically. But no, I feel like I've still got lots of colours to do. I don't know how many, it depends how many fights I have. If I have as many fights as I want to have, which is a lot, I probably will run out of colours. And I would probably have to go into like themes or something, rather than just like solid colours. But for now, I think we're safe. I think we've got another couple of years of block colours. Speak some Spanish. I feel like that's not really a question. I feel really put on the spot here, but I actually was doing Duolingo for a while for Spanish, and I was going really, really well, and now I can't even tell you anything. Hola, amigos. Mi casa. Yeah.
My house.
That was pretty good. Hello, my friend. Hello, friends, my house. I'll work on that. Favorite post-fight meal. So literally one of my favorite things is going back to the hotel lobby after my fight and ordering in a load of usually McDonald's, like a massive order of McDonald's, like way too much to even get through, and just sitting with all my team, family, friends, everyone who's come out, like from my circle, and we just pig out on all this gross food. But I absolutely love it. It's always such a good feeling. Sometimes it's pizzas, kind of depends what time it is or where we are, but usually a big pizza party or McDonald's party in the hotel lobby is the post-fight meal. What are your plans for after boxing? And are you from Australia? What made you move to the UK? I basically covered that. I am from Australia, if you didn't gather. But if you've only seen my Instagram photos, maybe you wouldn't know. And obviously boxing made me move to the UK. And my plans for after boxing, I don't really have any. I don't know. I think I'll always stay involved in boxing in some way, whether that's more in the media, commentating, punditry side, presenting, probably more down that route than say coaching or training. I would love to do a bit of mentoring, especially with like young up and coming female fighters, but I feel like the world will be my oyster once I've done everything I want to do. There'll be a little plan in there eventually, but right now, tunnel vision on the goals. Will the Sano fight happen? And who's the toughest sparring you've had? Will the Sano fight happen? I wish I had the answer. The only person who knows that is Amanda Serrano, because it's completely up to her. She knows I want the fight. I've been chasing that fight. I'm bored of chasing the fight, I'll be honest with you. I'm gonna keep chasing it. She's got what I want. But will it happen? I don't know. I think she's maybe got 2 or 3 fights left. We already know who her next 2 fights are. Some random next, over 2-minute rounds. Makes sense. And then Katie Taylor. What she does after that, I'm not sure. I guess it's up to her. She's the champ, or one of the champs. So I don't know. All I know is I'm ready and waiting. So it's up to her. And if you're watching this, it's up to you. Who's the toughest sparring you've had? Women. Dina Thorsland from Denmark. Very, very strong woman. Absolute energizer bunny. The engine on that woman and just the punch power, the velocity, she's relentless. So I would say she's probably the toughest sparring I've had. But I've had some great sparring with amazing girls. Kelly Harrington, Olympic gold medalist. Alicia Baumgardner, undisputed super featherweight world champion. Ellie Scottney, unified world champion. I'd say they'd be top 3, for sure. Best and worst thing about living in London. Best thing about living in London would be the opportunities here for my career, Tito, and just the circle I have around me here in London now. I feel very, very lucky to be surrounded by people who genuinely care about me and want the best for me. And I feel like that can be really rare. And I think there's a lot of people who don't have that. So to have that in a city on the other side of the world, from where I'm from, I feel very, very lucky, very privileged to have that. So I'd say they are the best things about living in London. The worst thing about living in London, the weather and the traffic and the coffee. They are the worst things about living in London. If your life was a movie or a film, for my British followers, what would it be called and who would play you? It would be called Undisputed, because I'd be undisputed by then when the movie's being made. I think Daisy Ridley would play me. If you don't know who Daisy Ridley is, she plays Rey Skywalker in the newer Star Wars films. I'm not a Star Wars fan, but I definitely see the resemblance and I get sent it a lot, so a lot of people see it. I actually went and saw one of the films in the cinema because everyone was telling me that I looked like this girl, and I was sat in the cinema thinking, that could be me. Like, that's literally me. It's actually a bit freaky. For reference, my editor Johnny is going to put Daisy Ridley here as Rey Skywalker. She actually doesn't really look like me when you see her like on red carpets and things, the actress, but when she's Warrior Woman in Star Wars, she looks like me. Will you bring one of your fights back home to Queensland? Would love to come and watch. Yeah, definitely. I obviously had my first ever title fight as a pro in Queensland, the Commonwealth title, back at the end of 2022. But the plan is definitely to have a world title fight in Queensland, or at least in Australia, before the end of 2024. That's my promise to you. Please come and watch. What's your camp diet like? What's your in-camp diet like? I think I'm quite lucky to be quite flexible with my diet in camp. The last 3 or 4 weeks get a lot stricter, but for the most part, since I've been like cooking myself and stuff, if you watched episode 2, you would know. Oh my God, I did. Oh no, we've had a nightmare. I can kind of make healthy versions of all the foods that I like and want to have. So I feel that's been the best way for me to kind of get through camp without being completely depressed, eating really boring, plain food. So it's given me a love for cooking, but I have really enjoyed being able to eat flexible foods and still be coming down in weight and fueling my training well. So it hasn't been that bad. I do still have a little sweetie treaty every now and then when I crave it. During camp, I feel like it keeps me happy, and a happy fighter is a dangerous fighter. It's not horribly boring or plain. I try to keep it as interesting as I can, but obviously sticking to a calorie deficit throughout camp so that my weight gradually comes down and you don't have to do anything dramatic at the end. What was the transition like from amateurs to pro? I feel like I came into the pro game quite naive. I just thought like boxing's boxing and I've been doing this forever, and I was a little bit stuck in my old ways, stuck in my habits, and I think I just like got by my probably first 6, 9, even 12 months probably as a pro, just boxing how I did as an amateur and not really being open to the process of developing and adapting my style, which obviously started to come more in my second year last year. So the transition I feel was a little bit slower for me, but I was kind of fast-tracked as a pro as well. So there was a lot of learning on the job. I had 6 fights in my first 12 months as a pro. So I feel like they happened very, very quickly. And I probably didn't allow myself enough time to really slow things down and adapt and change my style to suit the pros and suit the longer rounds, which has obviously been a huge focus of our training, especially over the past 12 months. Obviously being in world title fights, it's very, very important that we get all those little tweaks perfect now. But I would say the transition actually is a lot harder than I expected. I think I came into the pro game thinking, I'm going to go back to the Olympics, I'm just going to pop back over to Paris and go and box 3 threes again. And I very quickly realised that that wasn't going to be quite so easy done. And hats off to the fighters that do it. I know there's not many of them, but the ones that were boxing as a pro and going back and boxing as amateurs, it's a tough task. But for me, it became perfecting my professional style, and that's what my focus has been on since obviously 12 months ago deciding not to go back down the Olympic route. What advice would you give to young people who want to be like you, and how hard is it? I absolutely love that there's young people out there who want to be like me. I think that's probably the best compliment you can get. I would say find your passion, find what gets you jumping out of bed in the morning, find what makes you excited and happy, and pursue it. Chase it. Believe in yourself. Believe that it is possible, no matter how big this dream might be, how far-fetched it might seem, how crazy people might think you are, that you think you can do it. Do it. That's the advice from me. Growing up, Women's boxing wasn't even in the Olympic Games, the Commonwealth Games, when I started boxing. So when the women's boxing got introduced to the Games, it was like this realization for me, and it was like, that could be me. And even then, I still thought, oh, I couldn't be an athlete that represents my country. And when I believed, that's when it started happening for me. And I think having self-belief is like having magic powers. So find your dream and chase it, and don't stop chasing it. No matter how many setbacks, no matter how many hurdles, I think perseverance, resilience, they'll get you to where you want to go. And how hard is it? It's hard. It's very hard. It's not smooth sailing. It's not easy at all by any means. You're going to be tested. You're going to be challenged. You're going to think that the world is against you and life isn't fair. It's not fair sometimes, but if you keep on keeping on and you keep pushing towards that goal, I promise you'll get there. What will be on your new channel? This is my little baby, Skye Nicolson Unfiltered. I'm absolutely loving the whole project. I honestly want to have a platform that showcases me, unfiltered. It's in the name. Skye B. Nick Unfiltered. My life in the boxing gym, away from the boxing gym, on red carpets, on this sofa, and everything in between. Literally everything. I want to do fun stuff as well. I'm going to do little challenges and stuff, especially when I'm not in camp. I had people putting in lots of different requests about doing live reactions to boxing shows, predictions going into big boxing shows, debriefs after big boxing shows, but then also on the complete flip side of that, I had girls asking for skincare routines, makeup tutorials, online shopping, clothing hauls, literally everything. Anything and everything. It's me, unfiltered, for you. So like and subscribe. How do you go with traveling and training with jet lag? I feel like I am a pro at this. Being from Australia, it is very, very far away from the rest of the world. And I was on the national team for about 10 years, and we were traveling month after month, all around the world, training, competing. We would travel for 24 hours and get there and have 24 hours before we were weighing in and boxing. So I feel like I became very accustomed to adjusting to time zones, traveling smart with the compression socks, doing all the bits and pieces and all those little 1% that help to avoid disappointing performances or not being able to sleep and things like that when you go into competition. So for me, I think I handle it very, very well. Obviously, the longer kind of time I can get out there before a fight, the better. But I do like to finish my whole camp, basically, and go into fight week. So unless the time zone's going to be more than 6 or 7 hours ahead or behind from where I've been training in London, then I go out about a week before the fight. If it's going to be more than that, then I normally do go out probably 10 days to 2 weeks before. Just say I've done my whole training camp in England and I'm boxing in Australia. It's a massive time difference. I'd probably go out 2 weeks before the fight just to make sure that my body is acclimatized in the right time zone and everything's ready to go for the fight. But yeah, I think the more time you have, the better, obviously. And every single person's different, but there's definitely lots of tips and tricks around getting your body clock right and doing it well. Why did you delay your professional career and not start earlier? I didn't delay my professional career. I had absolutely no interest in turning professional, I'll be honest. I was very ingrained in the amateur system. My end goal was the Olympic Games, always. I wasn't delaying turning pro or starting my pro career late. I just honestly, up until the Olympic Games, it didn't cross my mind for a second that I would ever turn professional. So it was only when I started having the offers and the conversations with the right people that I decided, actually, yeah, I might try that. And even then it was like, as you all know, my plan was still to go back. That obviously changed, but if that rule change never happened, I might not have ever even turned professional. So yeah, it's funny how life works. How hard is making weight for a woman when you have to take cycles, etc. into consideration? I think this is something that is not talked about enough. It is immensely difficult for women. The timing of your cycle with the timing of your fight is a big part of your preparation. And for me, it's just taking into consideration where you're going to be in your cycle when it gets to fight week. And I've had some really good ones and some really horrible ones where the timing just has not aligned well with your fight date, and it really, really does make the weight cut hard. Your body wants to hold on to everything. You have so much fluid retention, bloating. I know every woman's different, but obviously speaking for myself, it is really, really hard to shift that last bit of water weight if it is in the wrong time of your cycle. So for me, as soon as I get given my fight date, the first thing I do is go to my cycle tracker and work out where I'm going to be in my cycle in that week. And if it is an unfortunate week in the cycle, what steps am I going to take in training camp to make sure that that's not a burden for me? So that means coming into fight week potentially a kilo lighter than you normally would, to allow for water retention and things that might, I guess, pop up on you towards the end of that week when obviously you're trying to make weight and your body has other ideas. So yeah, it's massive, and it's horrible, and it's definitely something that I think isn't talked about enough. Last question. How dedicated were you to boxing as a teenager? Did you still party, drink, go on long holidays, etc.? I think I was, as a late teen, so from about 17, 18, which is when a lot of boxers kind of go a little bit off the rails and become less dedicated, was actually when I kind of had a light bulb switch moment and boxing became everything. Up until then, I obviously boxed all through my teen years. I didn't really go on long holidays. I probably was never out of a boxing gym for more than 2 weeks through my whole, up until I was a professional. So 15 years as an amateur, I think 2 weeks would have been the longest I ever spent out of a boxing gym. But I definitely feel like I had a balanced lifestyle as a teenager. If there was a high school party on and a boxing show on the same weekend, I would prioritize going to the boxing show and weighing in. If I didn't get a fight, I would sometimes go to the party. If I got a fight, I was happy to fight and I wanted to fight. So I didn't drink. I still don't really even drink now as an adult. It's quite rare. So yeah, that side of it's never really been like an interest of mine. Obviously on a holiday I'll have a cocktail by the pool, no issues there whatsoever, but I'm not big on the whole drinking party lifestyle anyway. But I do go on long holidays now and I love it. So that's all of today's questions. I'm sure this will be the first of many Q&A videos that we do, and I'll try to keep varying your questions. I tried to choose questions that were asked multiple times as well so that I could answer them for a lot of people. Thank you for all your questions. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing, liking my video. All of that helps me to keep this project going. Leave suggestions in the comments about stuff that you do want to see on the channel. We're going to keep trying to get episodes out every week for you guys. Obviously, I'm flying in the morning to Philadelphia to go 11-0 and still. So we will have some pre-recorded stuff for you and be trying to get out some live bits from Philly through the week. So stay tuned, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on the next episode.